My brother Craig and I got the idea of climbing Pico de Orizaba in Mexico. It is Mexico's highest mountain at 18,491 feet. I had just climbed Mount St. Helens the previous year. In fact, right before the historic and deadly eruption of May 18, 1980. My climb is mentioned in this book on page 72 if you are interested. I have a longer video further down the list here, and it's over an hour long and contains photos I took on my climb. It's illustrated with over 100 illustrations as well. Climbing an 18,000-foot mountain is no easy undertaking. It is helpful that you become acclimated to the altitude first. That was the reason for our climbing Mount Elbert, to gain acclimation. Mount Elbert is Colorado's highest mountain at 14,440 feet. It's the second highest peak in the lower continental United States, second only to Mount Whitney in California. It was the closest high peak to our home in Kansas City. My brother and I threw a bunch of camping equipment together and hit the road in his old 1970 Chevy Suburban. The trip across Kansas took about 8 hours, with most of the driving done during the night. It was exciting to see the Rockies in the early light of dawn. We had some miles yet to travel, as our destination was the old mining town of Leadville, Colorado, to the southwest. We reached Leadville, Colorado just after noon. We decided to stop at a biker bar and restaurant when we reached Leadville. I'm not much on motorcycles. It was the only place open and close by. We ordered some burgers and a couple of Michelob beers. The waitress seemed kind of snotty and announced, "Here are your beers and burgers. Come and get them." We got up and got our orders, kind of miffed at the service. We sat back down and the waitress asked loudly, "Where's the money for the orders?" I answered, "It's over here. Come and get it." Not sure what brought on all that rudeness. Frankly, I didn't care. We stopped at a supermarket and got some food and a couple of 6-packs of beer for later. We then made our way to the camping area on the northeast side of Elbert's base. It was not a campground per se, but a large open space in the trees, a place to park your car while you fished or hiked. My brother and I opened the beer and decided to find a place away from the crowd, as it were, to camp. We got on a road going south and east from the campground. Beer and altitude don't seem to mix well, I guess. We ended up on a fire break going up the side of the mountain. My brother's Suburban had a large rear-view mirror sticking out of his truck, on the side of the truck. The fire break was getting narrower and narrower. We decided to do a 3-point turnaround and got his Suburban wedged between 2 trees. After some effort and some minor damage to his Suburban, we were able to free it and get it back down to the camp again. Some of the rocks on the road were so big, I was sure we were going to lose our oil pan. We spent the night sleeping in the Suburban. I don't remember what we had for breakfast. I'm sure it was plain and simple and did not require a campfire. My brother and I took the direct approach and just started up the mountain from the campground. It was very steep and difficult. We had to stop frequently to rest. After a couple of hours, it got a little easier and the trees got fewer. We stopped at one point to eat a granola bar, and we were visited by a Steller's jay that seemed totally unafraid of us. It was practically eating bits of our granola bars out of our hand. By noon, there were no trees around anywhere, and we were approaching the Col, or Cirque, on the east side of Mount Elbert. A small clear lake at the bottom. It had a small clear lake at the bottom of it. We decided to set up camp there as dark clouds began moving in, and by evening it was beginning to mist, and the temperature was beginning to drop some. We spent most of the rest of the day in the tent listening to the rain on the roof of the tent. I had placed a plastic tarp over the rain cover on the tent for an added measure. This made the interior of the tent kind of dark. We spent the rest of the day staring at the dark ceiling of the tent. The next morning it was bright and clear. We stowed our gear in the tent, ate some beef jerky and fruit, and set off for the summit. Marmots were everywhere, whistling to each other in the bright morning sunlight. We stopped here and there to rest as we were not used to the altitude. My brother had never climbed a mountain before. This was his first try. He had a handicap in that he was a smoker. I remember once he cried out that mountain goats were coming up the trail behind us. I looked really hard to see if I could see them. As it turns out, it was another group of climbers coming up the trail behind us. At one point, he laid back on the ground and said, "Oh God, if you get me off this mountain, I will never smoke again." He soon forgot that pledge. And one of those stops on the way to the summit was the inspiration for this painting, which was done from memory. Our tent can be seen far below next to a small lake. My brother can be seen enjoying the view. The painting is an older one and looks like one of my paintings from that period, the early 1980s. I also painted this digital painting a few years back. This painting is the only print of it is now in China. We finally reached the summit about 2 in the afternoon. There were 2 dry-laid rock cairns on the summit, probably built by climbers. A 3-inch diameter metal pipe, about 18 inches long, was also there, propped up against a large rock. It had been placed there by the Colorado Mountaineering Society so climbers could log their climb for posterity. Evidence of lightning strikes could also be seen on summit rocks, which had been discolored by the heat. The summit was very windy and cold, and we were not really dressed for it. We spent about 10 minutes enjoying the view and began descending the mountain. We reached my brother's SUV using dead reckoning and arrived in late afternoon or early evening. We spent one more night at the camp area and headed for home early the next morning. I lost 3 inches off my waistline on this climb. A month or 2 later, I was enrolled in a radiology program, taking a biology course. We tested our lung capacity in the class with a machine that measures such things. I had 3 times the lung capacity of any of the students in the class. Well, that ends this story for today. The next tale in the lineup documents my brother and I's attempt to climb Pico de Orizaba in Mexico. It is Mexico's highest peak. I would like to point out that I made an error at the beginning of my narrative and said we tried to climb Pico de Orizaba in 1980. It was actually 1981. I just want to be accurate in my storytelling. Thank you for watching.